to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yachts, and today my guest is Trish Weaver Rhodes. This is part one. She is an actor and a director. Enjoy. Okay, I have a guest with me today. I have Trish Weaver Rhodes. She is an actress and a director. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It feels like it's raining where I am, but I'm not sure.
Oh, you're in New York.
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, you're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like muggy and it's cloudy. Oh.
It's pretty blue here, actually, looking out my window.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, it's very nice out. Except I work in an office building, so I'm freezing every second of every day. So I'm in my lovely sweater.
So am I correct? You grew up in Ohio?
I did. Yes.
Cool.
Northeastern Ohio, a little town called Canfield, Ohio, between Akron and Cleveland. Yes.
Cool. How was growing up in Ohio?
You know, I can't complain. I had such a great childhood. I had a great time, honestly. I'm the youngest of six. So, and I'm the only girl. So yes, I have five older brothers. All of which I believe, no, two of them don't live there anymore. Most of them all still sort of gravitate to that.
Must have been hard going dating with five other brothers.
Well, the age differences are so vast. So my oldest brother was married and leaving the house when I was like 4. So it was really 3 of us. It was really like 3 and 3. Like 3 of them had left and then 3 of us were there. So
3 in the nest, 3 out.
Yes. Oh, we had a lot of, my parents had like 55 acres. So we had, the barn and the horses and the lake and all the property. Cool. And, of course, you'd go back to the barn and you'd have the fire and all this stuff. And then the brother would come with the shotgun and try to be funny and scare them away. And it was like,
no, don't do that.
To me. Yeah.
Let me date, please.
Yes. There was a lot of that. But no, it was great. It was a great childhood. Great way to grow up. For sure.
So you had horses. That's cool.
Yes. Cool. I had a pony named Velvet.
Oh, Velvet.
Yes,
not
Velvet was my pony. Yes. The little 4-H, the little horse showing, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
In fact, it's interesting. It's a funny story. I'm adopted and my oldest brother, actually, he's 17, 18 years older than me. He actually bought me the pony. And so I didn't know who my biological parents were, obviously. So growing up, it was one of those things like, are you really my dad? Like, did they do something? You know, like, so like our whole life, I would always say to him, like, are you really my dad? I'd be like, I'm not your dad. Like, you got me a pony. Who does that? So but no, he's not my dad.
Do you think, I don't know, I've been reading something about that horses bring calmness. Do you believe that is true?
I believe that to be very true, actually. Yeah, there's something about that. They're so big and just so deliberate in their motion, in their movement, that it's kind of like, it sort of forces you to pay attention, I guess, and be a little more calm. Otherwise, you're getting stepped on and you're getting, bucked off or what have you. So I feel like they're very calming.
I rode a horse, I think, when I was 6 and I fell off. And that was the last time.
The one and only time. It's not fun.
I was like on it and I fell off. I didn't know to hold on. I mean, I probably would be fine now, but like, then I just remember ending up in the bushes and be like, no, not doing that again.
Or I just picture you like.
Yeah, I was like on the side of the horse, and then I just like ended up in these bushes, and I just remember it hurting and being like, "This, no, this."
Yeah.
I mean, now I would know what to do. I'd be like, okay, just be calm,
Yeah, they're very and ponies are considerably smaller than horses, mind you. So as a younger kid, a pony was more appropriate, but. Even now, like my kids, my oldest daughter actually loves horses. She rides horses. She was showing them and all that stuff. And
that's cool.
They're big. I would go to the barn with her, used to my Velvet, and she's at how old was she? 10, riding this thing that's almost taller than I'm like, wow.
I know, it's scary.
But they are, you just go up to them and their little noses and they're so like calming and it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's a nice afternoon.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the sad thing I see when I was in New York, is seeing the horses, and they'd just be like, just miserable. And I'd be like,
on the street. Oh, I know.
Horrible what we're doing with these horses.
The carriage rides. Oh,
yeah.
Especially in the winter, and everybody's there and everybody wants to have that experience. And I just would look at them like, oh my God.
It's like, it's not romantic for them.
No, not at all.
This is slavery for them. They are not happy.
Horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Did you have other animals on the farm? Do you have like pigs? On the farm?
Okay, so we had such a eclectic, we had such crazy. So we had like horses, got rid of them, and then I came along, and then we had the pony. So that the pony was for a long time. We had a husky, we had dogs always. We had rabbits. We had about 8 rabbits because growing up, my brother thought it was funny to put them together, and they multiply. So we just kept adding rabbits. So
they're like gremlins.
Yes, kind of like that. We had a nice amount of rabbits. We had a goat named Fred who used to chase people into the pool, which was always a fun time. What else did we have? We had a raccoon. We had a Rocky. We had a raccoon named Rocky for a short amount of time. We always ended up being a place that sort of took in and helped animals get back together.
Did you have bears?
Actually, oddly enough, our property butt up against, and mind you, this is like 50 acres away to this farm. And they had bears, but they also had bulls. And one summer morning, the windows are all open. It's Ohio. It's lovely. As a little kid, I'm woken up to yelling and realized there is a bull in our front yard charging people. And we lived on the end of a street, like the dead end. So we had like the bull in it. And I just remember as a little kid thinking, this is insane. There's a bull in our front yard. One of the neighbors thought it was fun to bring a red thing and was trying to get it to
I wouldn't do that.
And just watching and like idiots out there running around trying to wrangle in this bull to nothing, mind you. Like there were no cell phones at the time. We didn't even know we didn't know how to contact these people. They were just driving around trying to find their bull. So
we didn't have the internet. You couldn't,
exactly
go on there and be like, where are the bull sanctuaries?
Thank you. So this little, an hour or so later, this truck comes barreling down the road with a, back end for the bull thing and pushes it in there. And it listens to this guy like it's, nobody's business. Meanwhile, everybody in the neighborhood is like trying to
get the bull.
Wrangle the bull. Yeah. So stuff like that did happen quite frequently. My horse, Velvet, would get out and we'd get a call from the neighbor across the street. She'd be like, Velvet's in our backyard. Okay. So I'd have to go across the street, grab her.
Would the horse know where it is, or would it like come back?
She would just start grazing. And let's just say like somebody left the fence open or something. She would just eat her way.
So I'm going to keep going.
She would just keep going.
What's like, this? It's
Velvet's
new.
In our garden. Like, sorry. Hey, go get her.
It's a new place for me to go.
Yes.
So were you introduced to the theater at a young age?
No.
No.
Nobody in my family. I'm sort of an anomaly in that respect. Nobody was into the arts at all.
Yeah.
At all. I don't know. It's just kind of who I was, I guess. Mm-hmm. I used to make tapes with my little black tape recorder when I was little. Yeah. Which I still have, which are just hilarious now. We used to
that's so cool.
Yeah, we used to do commercials. I do like back in the day, it was always Price is Right, during the day, whatever. And before, I would be home alone because all my brothers would be off in school. And that was back when nursery school was like only like 2 days a week or whatever. So I'd be home with my mom. And I'd go in the dining room under the table and I'd have my little tape recorder and I'd do like The Price is Right. I'd do the show from beginning to end, like all the voices and all that stuff. So that was kind of like my entertainment for myself, I guess. Yeah. And then second grade was my very first play. It was a Christmas play. And I was elf number 1. And I was the only elf that had
Elf
lines.
Oh,
yes,
yeah?
I was elf number 1. There was 3 of us. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my first sort of for it, and loved it. And then it was, I think the first, I was thinking about this the other day, the first time I ever directed anything was in 5th grade.
Really?
And we had to do this history project. And I can't remember the details, but I remember there were kings and queens, and we had to make a little set in the center room in between all the classrooms.
Yeah.
And I sort of, I think kind of by personality sort of just took over and started like directing people on what to do or whatever.
Stand there, go there.
That was sort of like that little start of that thing. And then middle school, I remember we all went as 5th graders to see the middle school. So we had this like tour and all this stuff. And as part of that, the 8th grade put on like a little show for us. They had a drama club in 8th grade. And I remember, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't wait to go to middle school. You can join drama club. I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. Well, the following year, 6th grade, they cut drama club. So I was in 6th grade, like, no. I was so excited. So then I had to wait for a high school to do any kind of, theater.
And then they cut drama club again? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, exactly. Drama club. High school.
We're going to get rid of it. You're coming in? Oh, well, we already cut it.
Yeah, right. Nobody really wants to do this anyway. Like, I was so bummed. But then we had, what was it called? I can't even think. It was in Youngstown, Ohio. It was called, Powers Auditorium, I believe, or it was the Youngstown, I want to say like Youngstown Playhouse, but I think I'm just thinking Lake Worth Playhouse. So I'm throwing those words together. Yeah. But it was something like that, but it was in Youngstown and I can't think. I had COVID. And so my brain, like, gone, like words don't happen anymore. Like it's awful. So I apologize.
When did you have COVID?
Oh, back like when it was really bad, like in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
20, January of 20, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was my kids. My daughter got it first, then I got it, then my other daughter got it. So we were like down for the count. But they're fine. Me, I just feel like brain cells have gone.
You feel like it just took everything?
Everything. But yeah, so I went and I took a drama class, like an acting class at this Playhouse. And I still have the papers like stapled that they gave us on how to do scenes and how to do this. But that was literally like 4 weeks. It was just like a blurb, like a Saturday morning thing that you did. Yeah. So that was really my only.
Did you have a pretentious teacher?
No, probably. I think about that now. God, I wish I could.
Sit here. Sit. You will now act for me. You're all 6, but you will do more.
You will breathe. Yes, probably. I'm sure. With a bunch of like, elementary school kids, that has to be so much fun. But yeah, that was, other than just being like a dramatic kid, I think, I really never had, I always, I was, my parents used to say they would get so mad because I was like the remote control back in that time period. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a remote and we had the 3 channels. So I would love the commercials. Like I would watch all of the commercials. I loved commercials. I thought they were fabulous. Really? And I would make everybody shut up. Like the show would come on. I'd be like, and the commercials would come on. I was like, zip it.
Let's watch the commercial.
Yeah, it was crazy. My parents were like, it was so weird. You were like that for years. Like you just wanted to watch the commercials. So I just, and then I think, again, we didn't have cable until I was in high school. So it was when I was home or, whatever, it was soap operas. Yeah. That's what I grew up on. Soap operas. And they wonder why I'm dramatic. Like that's that. We didn't have like Blue's Clues when I was little. We had Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
That's where that comes from.
That's funny. So your parents were supportive of your affinity for the arts.
Oh God, yeah. They were every lesson, I did fashion shows when I was younger. Like in middle school, I did modeling. I did
that's so cool.
I did the dance lessons. Oh my God.
We'll teach you how to walk. They make it
Yes.
sound like it's like the hardest thing in the world. It's like
Etiquette pose, yes, all of that lovely stuff. My mom, like every lesson, drove me all over God's green earth for all of that stuff. Like couldn't have been like never told me no, never said, you know, although they
it's
did
kind of my
say no,
parents.
they did put their foot down. I really wanted to take piano lessons, and they were like, we're not buying a piano just to have you quit in like 2 days. Because I was that person. I would try everything.
Yeah.
And then move on. Except for like the acting, like this type of thing. I think that's why maybe looking back, they were so supportive because I stuck with it. Yeah. You know, as opposed to like trying everything else and like.
Now, were you somebody that could be still? Like, could you do camera work stuff? Because like that's something I found out from somebody I was interviewing about kids actors, and like the thing you got to find is one that can be still to be able to hold.
Still now? Are you kidding? Like no. You know, oddly enough, I grew up thinking I wanted to be a movie actor, and then
who's your favorite?
And then I went to college and took all of the classes, and we had this class that was, I think at the time it was called Acting for the Camera. I never wanted to die so much in my life as watching that back. Oh my! And I didn't realize. Okay, this is the '90s, mind you. Yeah. Scrunchy on top of the head, you know, 90s hair.
Yeah.
And all you saw was this. Everything I said, you would see my head and the scrunchie bobbing. And I was like mortified. Like, I look like that?
I know, like all actors, you know, when they put you on tape first, you're like, that's what you do? Really?
Horrible.
God, boring.
Like, we all died. Like, every single person in the class realized, every motion you make is so exaggerated. Even just like little or blinking, like I never realized, like my eyes are like all over the place. It's like, this is horrible. I'm done. Why am I even doing this? I can't be on camera. What is wrong with me? This is stupid. I'm like, oh, there's theater. Fine.
Who did you idolize growing up? Like who was your like dream actress?
You know, I didn't get like I wasn't one of those kids that was like into film growing up, because that wasn't something that was accessible really to me. Like again, we didn't have cable. I fell in love with every actor from, so embarrassing, from like Knight Rider to like
Knight Rider, so like showed up
MacGyver. Like all of these ridiculous. And then, you know, I became high school and college and actually started branching out and seeing. And, you know, I was obsessed for a long time with Marilyn Monroe, but I think mostly because of her tragedy, like her story was more interesting to me than necessarily the acting. Audrey Hepburn was like, when I first saw Breakfast at Tiffany's, it's such a cliche, but it just was like, Roman Holiday to this day is like one of my absolute favorite movies ever.
Right back.
And
it's a good movie.
It was interesting that the weekend that I auditioned for college, she died that same time. And I remember I was like, I don't know why it affected me. So like I was 18, like why is this something that affect? And one of the questions they asked was much like that in my interview for school. And I remember it was like a 20-minute dissertation. I'm like, she had just died. And then halfway through, I'm like, oh, I should probably stop talking now. And they all were just laughing and dying. And it was I went on this tangent, and then I left there and was like, I'm not getting into college. Like
that's what they want. That's what they want.
They remembered me. In fact, I was the only person from my audition day that even made it. Like because
everybody else is just going to come in with a prepared speech and it's going to be boring. And you came in and was like, oh, wow, it's fun. That's why, you know, usually like the guy that's running the camera at an audition or whatever, they'll be like, well, you want to show up? And it'll be like, he won't be nervous because he's been sitting watching all these, you know, auditions. He'll just be a normal human being. And they'll be like, oh, he gets it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
for sure.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Sorry you were all stressed out, but none of you got it.
None of you got it. Hi. Sorry.
But I love that you told them, you know, all about Audrey.
Oh, it was ridiculous. It was like, and you know how you hear yourself talking sometimes?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, please just stop talking. Why are you still talking? I remember thinking like, oh my God, just stop talking. But it was
somebody come up and hit me across the face.
Something like, where's that big hook? Like somebody, take me off here.
It's like Chinatown. Jack Nicholson's gonna come out and be like, stop it, snap out of it. Or yeah, Cher and Moonstruck. Snap out of it.
For sure.
That's so funny. That's so funny. So you went to University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
Yes.
Were you a musical theater person?
In fact, they're huge there for that. No, I was just in
music's in the music's in the
it is. It is. Yeah, no, don't sing, sadly. No. But it was interesting because the theater departments, you took some classes with, you mixed departments, obviously. Like some of the musical theater guys would be in our classes and we'd take dance with some of them. Like it was all sort of mixed. And it used to blow my mind how like, I thought I took school pretty seriously, but some of these kids were like tap dancing to class, man. They like never stopped. It was like,
wow.
We were taking, I think I had at the most 19 credit hours a quarter. It was a lot. Like there was no time for a side job. There was nothing. It was like
that was like me at the neighborhood Playhouse in Strasbourg. It's like, can I take more? And like, no, you can't. But I want to learn about this too. And they just wouldn't let you do it anymore.
Like, no, we maxed out at 19 hours. That's all you really can be here.
Yeah, when you get to that field, you start finding the people that are like that's all they do.
Oh yeah,
especially dancers. They have to do it.
And we had to, part of our we had to take costumes, we had to take lighting. I mean, you took everything. Yeah. And then you'd have to accrue shows. So the first show that I accrued in my life was Cabaret for costume.
Oh, okay.
Which was like
wow.
Like completely like surrounded by like nakedness for like an entire show. And like I learned about quick changes and these are very little costumes. Like, oh my God. Like it was.
And you've got to get so much time. I know. I think if they came up with theater today, they would have been like, let's give them a little bit more time to get the costumes on. As opposed to like a minute where you're like just throwing things off and it's just like, there's no time to be modest. Get it on.
No modesty. Oh, you kidding? No modesty. I would stand off stage. I was a fast change girl and literally just like stand like this. And it was like just like covered in like pantyhose and bras and G-strings and weird things coming at me.
I remember my first play, like we were doing the dress rehearsal and like I still hadn't gotten I was new. So I kind of gotten the whole quick change thing. So like at one point I was coming out with like my pants almost down. I'm like pulling them up as I'm doing it. And they're like, the director's like, yeah, you can't really be showing up like you just had sex backstage.
No, it's a learned skill.
It is. I mean, you just got to like learn time and just be like that, I've never done that before, but but it was like the first time. And I'm like, oh, how much time do I have? Oh, wait.
And they're like, you're on now.
Like, it's like, wait, hold on. I'm pulling, I'm coming out and like, let's not do it where you're,
Yeah. Cover.
Just got up out of bed and you're like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. I just directed a show that had a lot of quick changes for a lot of older women who were very concerned, with the
Sex
timing.
Please, we're 60.
That one, yes. And I just did Calendar Girls, actually.
Oh, yeah, you did.
There were some really, and I just kept telling them, you know what, I would rather you be on and doing this scene. I don't care if you're in the same outfit you just had on. I don't care if you're in the same costume. Like, don't let it be that important. It's really, it's not that important. Like, there's some obviously shows that it's kind of important. This is not one of them. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't kill yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's sort of, you have to just kind of keep that in the back of your head. Like, what's more important, the lines and being on, or, you're wearing the same shirt as you did last week,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. So with, after graduating there, did you go where did you go? Did you?
Oh, I was, after graduating, I was a mess. You know, it was like the first time after college where you really don't have to be anywhere or do anything. And it was like, oh my God, I've been in school my whole life and now I'm 18 and I have this whole world. What am I going to do? Yeah. And it was interesting. My graduating class was the first class that had a showcase. It was really new to that program. And now, oh my God, the showcases they do now are crazy. I mean, they travel to New York, they travel to Los Angeles. Ours was just in Cincinnati, and a couple people were invited, but it wasn't anything like it is today. And I was, I would like to go back and smack myself because it was such an arrogance of, no, I want to do film. I want to go to Los Angeles. I'm going to go to Los Angeles, and the agents and everything that were there kept saying like, you'd be great in New York. You should go to New York, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I went to Los Angeles and hated it so much. Hated it. My roommate, my best friend in the entire world was like, she was a business major actually. She was like, well, I have nowhere to go. I'll go with you. And this is, 1997, So this was before, we packed everything and went to the airport, went out to Los Angeles, and we were there, looking for a place to live, all this stuff. I think we were there for like 4 days, and we were sitting in the car. It was pouring down rain, had a rental car. We were sitting in Ralph's or I can't think what the big chain store was. First of all, they hadn't had rain in like something like 100 and something days at this point. And the minute we got down, it started pouring and rained the entire time we were there. I'm like, it's a sign. Like, and both of us are sitting there. We're like, we hate it here. We don't want to be here. Like, why are we here? So we were there for like 2 weeks, and we ended up going back to Ohio. And I was like, at this point, it's summer. It's after summer. It's entering fall. And I'm just like, I got to do something. Like, what am I doing? I'm like living in my parents' basement, all bummed out about, life choices. So then I get the internet. We just got a computer. The internet was new. Oh yeah. This is like the start of AOL.
The dial-up.
Yes.
And that's
yes. And so I actually went online and found a hotel and got a train ticket and gave myself 10 days and went to New York and decided I was going to find a place to live. And my parents were like, "You're 19, what are you doing? We're sending you or I'm sorry, not 19, you're 20 at that time, 22. Like we're sending you on a train by yourself. Like, oh my God. Like the minute my dad dropped me off at the train station, he's like, you sure you don't want me to go with you? I'm like, no, I'm good. So went and I stayed at the Pickwick Arms, which is like the seediest of seedy hotels. And I had a room this big and I shared a bathroom in the hall. And I just went to New York with like savings that my parents had saved for, that big move you make in your life. And that was it. I went and found a place, and crazy. Like I had surrogate grandparents all over the city. Like every time I met anybody, they're like, you're here by yourself? Like, what? Like, how can you be here by yourself? And I found a sublet, and they were musicians. They were traveling Europe, playing with West Side Story, I believe.
And this is back when we didn't really have like, Craigslist and all these other things.
No, in fact, oh my God, this is such a funny story. So I was at the Pickwick Arms, and right across the street, and this is like Midtown, like 57th or something like that. Okay. Right across the street was this giant building, and there was a sign that said, rent, like for rent, whatever. So I'm like, okay, I like walk in and I'm like, I'd like to, rent a room. And they looked at me like I was insane. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. And then a guy was coming off the elevator, and he was like, what are you doing? Like he was a realtor by chance, and was like, don't come with me. It's like, I had no idea what I was doing. Okay. So I go with him, and he knew these people. He had just got hired by, the last name was the Lynx. And he was like, I know some people who are looking for a sublet. It's only 3 months. That might be, a good enough time for you to get your feet wet and, learn what to do or whatever. So that happened. He introduced me to them. I had a sublet. Like I'd been in New York for 3 days, and I found a place, and I had like 8 more days to go. So I just was like a giant tourist walking around and,
Yeah.
and then went home and I was like, I found a place to live. And my parents were like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I mean,
by Thanksgiving, I think it was, I was packing up all my stuff. My parents drove me. It was like a 6-hour drive from where they lived, up 5 flights of stairs, no elevator. It was lovely with my old parents carrying all of my books and everything. It was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was something I learned in New York. It was like, be either the second floor or have a place with an elevator.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It's not fun.
It was, and their place was amazing. It was like front to back of railroad. Is that what they call them? Like the 6 rooms that are all laid out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they came back and I found my own place, which was just a studio, which was so small. Again, fifth floor walk up. I love those.
I remember when I would bring in new roommates or whatever. I mean, we had one person that came and it was like, she didn't speak English and she's trying to talk to me through a Google translator. And I'm just like, no, I can't do this. I can't. There's no way I'm communicating with you through Google. Be like, we need, this. I was always the one that would like write everything down and be like, all right, here's the supplies we all do. We split it down 4 ways. Otherwise somebody ends up paying for everything. And, and be like, how am I going to talk to the person who can't speak English? Or we had another person who came and she didn't even, she was like, she goes to bed at like 8:30. And I'm like, we're all like in our 20s. What are you talking about? We're not, this isn't camp.
Yeah, that's rough.
But so I know exactly what you mean in New York. It's but that's good. You had a the railroad apartments are nice.
It was awesome. I missed that. Yeah, that's why they were subletting, because they were rent controlled. So they didn't want to lose, like they paid nothing. Oh my God. And then I left them and paid like double for the smaller space. It's like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, there used to be places in New York which were specifically for artists. And then capitalism said, no, we're going to take this space.
Yeah.
We need all of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bloomberg. You took those, and it's like, that would have been so nice for when I was there. I'd have been like, I'm going into the actors' apartments. And now it's like, I mean, it's the same thing now. Now you can't even really put on a play there like you used to.
No. And to be fair, I mean, I lived there.
The Producers Club. Let us go.
Yes.
It's like a hole in the wall with nothing.
I lived there 97, 98, and it was perfectly lovely. It felt perfectly safe. Everything was fine. But to be honest, I was such a giant tourist. Like I put 0 effort into acting. Like 0. It was honestly one of the best years of my life, and it was so much fun, and I did so much, and I don't regret any of it. I do wish I would have actually, I went on some interviews. I went on auditions, but it was nothing like, I wasn't really pushing anything. And this was back when you just had a phone number, you had the voicemail, and you had, you were supposed to send all your headshots out.
It's terrifying. You got to go in there and you're like, please pick me. Please pick me. And you're just that's like the worst thing you could do. Yeah. It's almost like knowing nothing sometimes is the best thing to do, to come into the business, because
I swear
you don't know enough to be scared.
That was 100% me. I didn't know enough to know that what I didn't know, I guess, in a weird way. I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So how do you get involved with Lake Worth?
So I moved here. I followed a boy back in the early 2000s. And then broke up with boy, and then found another boy, and got married and had kids. So I was living in Ohio. I was living in Columbus, Ohio, and the boy at the time was going to go to culinary school, which was down here. And my parents had a vacation house in Delray that we've had since I was tiny. And I was like, could I maybe live in the house for a year and he could go to, school and then we'll just come back to Columbus. Like that was the plan. That was 20 years ago. So I'm still here. So then I'd done theater in Columbus before I moved here. And again, moved here, got a bartending job, just wasn't even thinking about, acting because we were going to go back. Then I ended up staying here, and then life just sort of took over. And all of a sudden I was having kids and getting married and doing all this other stuff. And I'd lost that part of me, and I didn't realize it really until I found it again, how much that really was a part of me and how much I needed it.
That's what Daniel said. He had the same thing happen to him.
And I didn't. Okay, so I got a job here where I work now. Yeah. And there was a young lady that worked here as an intern who was from Florida. So she knew this area anyway. And she was from Lake Worth. So she grew up knowing the Lake Worth Playhouse and all that stuff, which I'd never even heard of up until I went there that first time to see her, because she got a part in just an ensemble part in The Heights. And so a bunch of us from work were like, oh, we're going to go see this. And I'm thinking like, oh, I never even heard of this theater. I'm going to blah, blah. And I remember walking in and just looking up and was like, oh my God, like, this is the cool, how have I been here all this time and didn't know this was here? Like, this is amazing. Went in, sat down, and, the set, like the whole thing, it was such a spectacular show. It blew me away. And I have to admit, at the time I've had the whole like community theater, like in my mind, I'm thinking back to Youngstown, Ohio, our little community theater that I was involved in, that was like community theater, like it wasn't anything.
They knew their lines. They knew their lines. That was good enough.
That was good enough. Yeah. So I walked into this and was like,
no,
zero. Like, this is amazing, and watched the show. And it was like instantly, like I felt that like spark again of, oh my God, like I've been missing this for so long. So then, when we went back to work and I was talking to her about it and everything, she's like, well, look at their website. They have auditions all the time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I haven't auditioned for a show in 20 years. Like, I haven't done, and I literally started thinking about that. Like, I haven't done theater in 20 years. Like, this is so crazy. So went on their website and they happened to have auditions coming up. Like, it was like the month later. It's like, oh my God. Okay, I'll just do it. And I talked myself in and out of it for like a solid month.
Yeah.
And then I showed up. It was like, whatever, what I got to lose, So I went and I auditioned for, and at the time, her name was Jody, the artistic director, was directing this show. And I love that. This is so me. So you walk into the rehearsal hall and you're walking in and the room is like all to the right and there's a mirror on the left. I walk in and turn left and smacked right into the mirror. I crashed right into the mirror because I saw a mirror, not realizing the room doesn't go that way. And it was like, funny. Oh my God. And she just busted out laughing. And I was like, I can't believe, like, oh my God, this is like college interview all over again. Like, oh my God. And then the rest is history. Then, I auditioned and she loved me. And she was like, she told me later on, she was like, I felt like you really needed this. I was like, really? Like in a needy way? And she was like, no, I could just tell like your soul needed this at this time. And it was so true. Like I needed that again. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. So that's kind of how I felt. And then I did that show. After that is when actually I met Daniel. He was directing The Odd Couple. So I was like, okay, well, I auditioned for this show. I'll go try and audition for something else. And I ended up being in The Odd Couple. And at the time, Dan was doing these black box shows next door in the black box theater. And they were just sort of getting that up and running. And they had a show they were doing called Kimberly Akimbo. And he was like, oh my God, like, we think you'd be so great for this. You should come out. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this was like a whirlwind. Like, I went from not doing theater for 20 years to like, all of a sudden, like doing theater again. And it was just awesome. And it just sort of like snowballed from there.
So Kimberly Kimbo, yeah, you were in that.
Yes.
And then you do Church and State.
Church and State was a couple shows after. Yeah. I did Reckless after that, and then Church and State. Okay. Yeah.
Church and State. Because then they did like these short plays, I think that.
Well, during the COVID times.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be
COVID
like
time. Yeah.
Back in COVID times. We did, we did
days.
these shorts where we did all these Zoom plays. So Dan came up with this whole concept where he picked a bunch of us and we wrote these little sketches, and then we produced them through Zoom. And then they ended up showing them on their website when everything was shut down, just to try to keep, you know, the momentum going of the shows, because everything, you know, I was at the time when COVID shut everybody down, I got cast in The Boys Next Door as the one small woman part who did like 3 parts. By the end of that, I was directing it because everybody had dropped out or been we recast it so many times because it was supposed to go up in like April and then didn't, and everything was shut down. And then the director ended up moving to California, and Dan was like, why don't you, you know, direct? And I'm like, okay.
So that's kind of how you jumped into directing.
That's how I jumped into directing. Yeah. And that was the first show that I directed there was Boys Next Door, which ended up being absolutely amazing and such a great experience. And I've never been so proud of something in my entire life. Like it was just like, we did this during these times. Like it was just, it was crazy. It was so good. And I was so proud of all of them. It was awesome.
And then you did, I'm jumping a little bit, but you did, was God of Carnage after True West?
Let me think. Yes. No? Yes. Yes, it was. It was after. No.
Okay.
Okay. No, I was in God of Carnage. Then I directed True West.
And that was last year, right?
Yes. Yes. Because Yeah. I had to think of the timeline. Yes. I was in God, because that was the first acting I'd done in since Church and State. It was almost 3 years. I hadn't acted in, well, I take that back. I did do something on the main stage, but in that space, that was the first time I'd done anything in there in 3 years. And, you know, it's tough. I'm of the age where I'm almost too young to play old, but too old to play young. So I'm in that strange demographic. And there aren't a lot of roles for people like you know, that come along. So that's why I kind of like directing, because I feel like I get to be creative and, you know, and really put those skills to good use.
Okay, that about does it for this episode. I want to thank Miss Rhodes for being on the show. As always, you can find me at Johnston Yachts. Please like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for part 2. And please check out the YouTube version of this. And I will see you next time on the DMF.